Was he your husband when you were out here on a dating show? Was he your husband then? Were you his wife then? She can fight all she wants, but it's divorce, babes. That's what she's getting. Divorce. Guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We're here to discuss the latest episode of The Single Life, the last episode of this season before we get to the tell-all. And let's just get right into it. Of course, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all of those yummy things, and let's jump right in. It's been a while since we have visited Chantel in Greece, so let's get right into her. And the minute we see our girl, she is squeezing her boobs into this bodycon dress to go see Giannis, aka Greek Bay, aka Greek Salad. And so her approach to this date is very much make or break, and I wish that she wouldn't put so much pressure on seeing a guy that she's only hung out with 3 times and someone that lives so far from Atlanta. And I think that it's easy to fall into these habits because she hasn't really dated anyone since her divorce. But because she hasn't dated anyone since her divorce, I'm like, girl, take your time, test the waters. But instead, she's in Greece, second guessing every single action or word that he has made or said. And so she's going to meet up with him, and the date is supposed to be a surprise. And she pulls up to the destination, and it is a soccer field. Chantel is dressed like she's going to the club, okay? She's dressed like she's going to get wine and dined. And so her face when she sees the soccer field is like, but I think ultimately the reason he brought there is what she should want, which is that he's like, I spend a lot of time here, I train here. This represents who I am. I wanted you to see it. Because if you're really trying to find your man, that's what matters, not the fantasy, even though the fantasy is fun. And so they're like talking, and you could tell that they're both like, being cautious and testing it. But Chantel wastes no time in being like, if you like me, why am I the one always making moves? And ultimately, he's like, I'm scared about what could happen here. And it's clear that he likes her, but he also doesn't want to jump in too fast, but he also doesn't want to lose out on her. And he tells her, he's like, I want to be sure about something before I commit to something. And that's rational, and that's perfectly acceptable to say to someone that you've only seen 3 times. And so after they have that very serious talk, they start playing soccer. And I just can't believe that our girl Chantel is playing soccer in this bodycon dress and barefoot. The things that you do for the D. And last time I checked, they haven't been intimate yet. So she must really like the idea of him because... And so she says that she has to leave because she's going back to America tomorrow, so she has an early flight. And he looks really bummed that she has to go. And so she's like, okay, you're sad? What does that mean for us? And he's like, I want to be sure before I commit, but I really like you, so I'll be the gentleman and I'll visit you first, and then you have to come visit me again. And she's like, well, let's see how it goes in Atlanta. And then they start making out. And they are making out in the field. They're making out as they're walking. They're making out by the car. They're getting it in, right? And I love this if it was just light, And I want her to slow down, you guys, but I understand her deeply. There's just something about the butterflies that you feel when you have a new crush or a new lover after a breakup. The butterflies just hit different. So I get why she would get, all caught up in the fantasy of it all. And so we do see her and her besties the next day piling up into the car, and they're kikiing about, the kind of trip that they've had. And out of nowhere, Giannis pulls up with flowers. And he says that he didn't want her to leave without one last kiss. So I'm like, wait. Am I getting caught up in the fantasy now? Or was this, set up by the producers? What is going on? And so when he pokes his head in the car, Chantel's like, she's stunned, She's like, that's my man. And she swiftly gets out of the car and starts making out with him some more. And she's like, you're going to come visit me, right? And he's like, yeah. And they make out some more. And then she gets back in the car to leave. And they're all, her and her friends, looking at him as the car is going by. They're like, wow, he looks really sad. He really likes you. Honestly, I love the shared delusion that we have as women, as girls. Just, I love that because our delusion sets us free in some ways. And that was really sweet. I'm really happy for Chantel because I know that that's the kind of gesture that she was really looking for. And as she arrives to the airport, Chantel's reflecting on her trip and she's like, I'm leaving a brand new woman. And I guess we'll have to see that, right? But I think it was a successful trip overall. But let's move on to the next single, Natalie. As you recall, we left her with Michael. So we see them drop off Mama so that they can have some alone time. And you guys, Natalie keeps talking about Michael like he's a pawn. She's, telling the producers in her interviews all of the ways that her life would be better with Michael in it, in terms of kids, family structure, stability, and nothing that she's saying is about what she loves and values about Michael as a person. And then on the other hand, in Michael's interview, he's like, I'm going through a time in my life where I'm looking for fresh starts, fresh journey, and I'm finding myself. And immediately from what he said, I'm like, yeah, he's going on a fresh start, meaning he's not going to hold any grudges. I don't think he means fresh start like, let's, circle back and be together. And so you could see them strolling on the park, and Natalie is clinging to his arm like she's not going to let him go, okay? And so they're seated by the water, and she's going on and on about how, she thought she wanted money, and she thought she wanted a certain career, and she wanted all these things, and she went to get it. And in doing so, she sacrificed the love that her and Michael had, and she sacrificed family, that he's her family, and that's the most important thing. And Michael's like, yeah, you did. And so she's definitely not picking up on the cues, or she's choosing to just bypass it because she's like, would you be willing to have a child with me? And Michael's like, no. And she's like, why? And I'm just like, the audacity of this woman, after all that she put him through, to go on and question his no, to question why he wouldn't want to be together with her, to question why he wouldn't want to reproduce with her. Wild. Just wild. And so, but it gets wilder because Michael is like, I want to move on. I want a fresh start. And she's like, well, you're my husband. Was he your husband when you were out here on a dating show? Was he your husband then? Were you his wife then? So now that he wants to move on, it is a problem. And so Michael is like, it's been years. You've been in relationships. And she's like, it's only been Josh, and you can't really call that a relationship. It was a big enough relationship that you decided to move you and your mother without a job, without money, without a house, all the way to the West Coast for him. So it was big enough of a relationship then. Now you're trying to downplay it. And I love that Michael is not letting it slide. He's like, you've literally said that I'm your backup plan. I'm not going to be your backup plan, Natalie. And he goes in. He's like, there's no we. We do not have a relationship. We are friends. She's spiraling because you can tell that in her delusional mind, there was no scenario of this conversation where he would have said no to her. And while they were together, he never said no to her. So it's like that line in Vampire Diaries, you don't know what I look like when I'm not in love with you. That's what's happening here. She expected to be embraced by the old Michael, and this Michael is a good person, is still generous, but he's not in love with her. And he doesn't have to make compromises for her, and he does not have to soothe her ego. And so he's like, you gave up a lot. Yeah, you sacrificed me. You left me like I was nothing. You have to deal with it. I just love this redemption for him because I know that he was probably holding on to this for so long. It must feel so empowering for him to be able to say these words to her without rage. To just say that with such peace. Like, I gave you a lot. I took care of you. I loved you. And you treated like what I gave you was nothing. He just went in, you guys. He was like, it didn't mean nothing. You're here in the place that you dreamt of. You are in the place that you've always wanted to be, where you left me for. And you're unhappy? Sounds like a you problem, basically. He didn't say that, but that was the sentiment. Like, you're not going to be happy anywhere because you don't see things through. And this woman is not trying to take no for an answer. So she's like, okay, well, we could just be friends and start from there. And she like wants to leave it open. And he's like, no, we're friends, full stop. That's it. So he's again is like, I'm ready to move on. And she's like, move on with who? You have no one. I'm single, you're single. We have 7 years here. We have history. And I'm just like, history that didn't matter to you. And also, he does not want to be with you. And so he's like, I'm, making the final steps to get a divorce. And she was like, no, you can't. I'm gonna fight for you. You can't stop him from divorcing you. There is footage documenting years of you dating, of you being in full-fledged relationships, of you crying for said men. She can fight all she wants, but it's divorce, babes. That's what she's getting. Divorce. And she ends up walking off and having a cry, and Michael's just chilling because he's like, and Michael obviously stood on business because, as I let y'all know, the day that this season premiered, it was announced that he had filed. So, from the footage in the tell-all, it looks like some way or another Josh is still in the mix. So we'll find out more about that then. But let's move on to the last one. It's really quick. It's Debbie. So Miss Debbie is packing up her bag because it's time to go home. Her little stint in Miami is over. But before it's over, though, she has to give her son Julian a little talking to. And so Julian walks in and he had no idea that his mom was about to tell him off. She's like, you made me look so desperate to Ruben. You made me seem like I was impulsive. He's here thinking that I want to move to Miami now. What I was telling you was, in the long run. And moral of the story, she really thinks that Julian is trying to sabotage her, which I don't think that's the case. I do believe that his mother is impulsive. I feel like Julian has had to be the parent for Debbie a lot. And, the last situation with Osama, she was getting taken advantage of and she moved so far from his reach. I understand why he's cautious. Like, ma'am, your son has PTSD, okay? But I don't think that the way he handled the Ruben thing was inappropriate. I think it was just two adults talking, but he did overshare. So Debbie is upset that he shared the Osama tea because she feels like that should have been her place to say. But I also don't know how soon she would have told Ruben of Osama because she was scared of how he would act. Also because it makes her look a bit unhinged, which, where's the lie? But I think it was an important moment because she looks at Julian and she's like, I know I messed up, but can you forgive me? Like, can you let me move on? And I'm sure she has mom guilt over it. But also, Julian is like, I forgave you when you arrived. Like, I'm not angry. I'm coming from a place of protection. And I love that he was receptive to what she was saying. And he was like, I'm going to respect your boundaries. Like, I'm sorry. But yeah, I just think he's being a protective son. I think that his mother is a little loosey-goose. And at the end of the day, she's an adult. And sometimes you gotta watch the people that you love from a distance. Be close enough that if they holler for you, you run. But enough that they, feel good in their moves and have their space. But overall, Debbie is worried that her and Ruben won't recover. So she's looking forward to this opportunity of alone time while they head to the airport. He offered to give her a ride. And yes, I get wanting, the last minute time with your boo. But you came on this trip with your son. You're gonna let your son just Uber by himself to the airport when Ruben could have just drove all of you? I don't know. Maybe she's like, he's an adult, he'll be fine. But I just thought that was weird. They're on their drive and it's a bit quiet. And of course, Debbie's reading into it. She's just like, "Ugh, he said he was fine, but so did that last guy, Russ, and it ended up not being fine. Like, this is over already." And when they get to the airport, they're saying their goodbyes, and Ruben is like, it's early, but I'm really excited about what we're brewing here, and through time, it's gonna be something really good. And Debbie is like, I want a hero. I want a fairy tale. And she has this big old flower that's distracting but cute. And she's like, I want a hero. I want a fairy tale. I can't handle any more heartbreak. And Ruben assures her that this isn't the end for them and that he's actually planning to go visit her and to see where it goes. And this whole time they're holding hands and they just look so cute. It's such a sweet moment. Also, Ruben is wearing every color he owns, as is she. And so honestly, their vibes are immaculate. They are giving off the same energy. It's really cute. I'm looking forward to seeing if they're still together in the tell-all. But yeah, you guys, as I've been saying, next week we get the tell-all episode, and it looks like a 90-day fever dream. On top of the current cast, we're getting Chantel's mom, we're getting Josh, like I said, and we're also getting the Battle of the Debbies. Okay, Colt's mom, Colty Debbie, has beef with this current Debbie. So that's interesting. I can't wait to watch. I'll definitely be recapping. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on that video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.